This was at one point the largest landfill in the world. This is a marvel of engineering and what we've been able to do as a society to take the garbage away. That is the highest naturally occurring space on the Eastern Seaboard from New England south.
For decades, 150 million tons of garbage was dumped along the banks of the Freshkills estuary in New York City's Staten Island. But these 200-foot-tall mounds of trash are being transformed into a wildland recreation area nearly 3 times the size of Central Park. To see it firsthand, my friends at Open House New York organized a sunset group walk with Mark Murphy, president of this impressive project, and Field Educator Jen Gallo.
I have lived here my whole life. I was sent here when I was a kid. My dad said, clean the garage out, stick it in the back of the station wagon, and we would drive out to Freshkills. And it was like being on the dark side of the moon. And there were these telephone poles that were planted in the ground, and you would take a rope and wrap it around the things in the back of your car, tie it to the pole, or the pole had the ropes on it, and you would just drive away and it would all fly out the back, and you would just keep going. You would not stop because God knows what would try to get back in your car. So over time, you saw it transform to the place that every single New Yorker's municipal solid waste would come. The Staten Island's population is 6% of New York City, but 100% of the waste of New York City came here. And it was something that was awful to the people who lived here. The smell and the stench of rotting garbage was ever present. And over time, the people of Staten Island really stood up, petitioned their elected officials, and we finally were able to get the Staten Island landfill closed. March 22nd of 2001, the last barge of New York City municipal solid waste came in here. So it was really a testament to the political will of the city pushing back on the state, because the state was like, oh God, we're gonna have to take it now. And we made rules in New York City, and they started taking the garbage out of New York to Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia. At that point, the capping of this site began. It is a marvel of engineering. It is an infrastructure site, and probably one of the largest infrastructure sites in New York City. And I'm very, very lucky to be able to work turning the largest landfill in the world into the largest park in New York City. It's a place of resilience, it's a place of renewable energy, it's a place of bringing back birds and animals which were extinct at one point in this area. So welcome Open House New York, and let's go.
Right on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Robert Moses looked at this site as complete wasteland. It was wetlands in New York City. You'll be able to see the wetlands and how low they are, obviously sea level, and how high the mounds are in relation to that sea level. So he started in 1948. Prior to that, this area, because it was considered wasteland for many at the time, was a dumping ground for furnace ash. So a lot of slag, a lot of furnace ash was brought out here and just dumped. And then what the city did was they would spread it out. And in some ways, I think we're lucky, because that was the base of what the garbage went on top of. And when the furnace ash mixed with the claying soils, when it gets wet, it actually expands and doesn't allow the leaching of really the bad actors going through and into the groundwaters. So we're now at a point many, many years later with incredible federal regulations from the Clean Air and Clean Water Act in the 1970s. We're looking at the cleanest estuarial waterways in the 5 boroughs of New York City. You wouldn't think that.
Yeah.
A few years ago, a previous administrator of Freshkills described the engineering that makes the park safe to use.
I'm sure people will say, yeah, she says it's very safe. But if my 5-year-old comes here and starts digging through the dirt, can you get to the garbage?
No, you can't get to the garbage. You can't get to the garbage. There is 2.5 feet of soil that is cleaner than is in most people's backyards in the city of New York.
Right.
Between you and a very heavy industrial grade liner.
The entire site is a native grassland. And you might drive through Pennsylvania and go, oh, look at all these wonderful lands, and they're all green. Those are agricultural lands. Farmers go in, they plow those lands. They plow out all the snakes, all the moles, all the rats, all the mice, all the other things that are in the ground, which are native to those lands. Here, this is one of the last remaining large grasslands in the Northeast United States. Cities of ecological life are under that grass throughout the year. We cut that grass once a year, because we can't allow the trees. Every tree you see out here is a naturally grown volunteer tree. We try to prevent the trees from growing by mowing it, so that the tree roots don't puncture or compromise the geotextile membrane that is underneath the ground. But the grass does grow. And you'll see some areas with 6-foot grass, 7-foot grass, Phragmites throughout. And then all of these different nesting birds will come here and migrate, and we're starting to see them come back, like the sedge wren, like the grasshopper sparrow, like the northern bobwhite, which was extinct from here. Somebody came to me the other day, well, why isn't this all just open to the public? Well, because it's dangerous, number one. The infrastructure on this side, on that side of the fence, has not yet been hardened. And you can see right now wellheads that are sticking up that are inspected weekly by engineers, which is mandated by New York State DEC. They check to make sure that the entire infrastructure that is under that landfill cap that is still producing gas, the integrity of it is in good shape. When we ultimately have to take that into parkland and turn it into a passive park for us, we're going to have to cover those, or we're going to have to sink them like they have already done on what we call East Mound.
There are a lot of forests on Staten Island. It's the borough with the most woodland. And grassland is such a rare habitat. It's, going extinct in most of the country. So it's really important to protect this type of environment because of the species of animals that can only live here and were, brought back from the brink of extinction. And now they're returning here. So it's kind of important to maintain this so that they can continue to thrive and proliferate. So the sedge wrens and the grasshopper sparrows are two species of birds that were critically endangered, not found in New York City for over 50 years, and they're nesting over on East Mound out there. Yeah. So it's that kind of long, low mound on the other side of the water.
The Lenape lived in this wonderful area collecting mussels and different sorts of shellfish. They hunted. They actually called this Aquahunga Managua, which is the place of the bad wood, meaning trees don't grow well in wetlands. Under this entire mound, all of them, there's a system to collect the liquids through capillary action. It goes into these tubes, which pulls it out. All the leachate goes to the other side, is processed and turned into these large pucks.
Oh, then what happens?
Yeah, where are those disposed?
Well, the leachate, is then disposed of. It could be landfilled, and then the gas goes to these flare stations, and then the sulfurs and things are cleaned out, and the gas is sent and turns into methane or butane type syngas, and heats the houses of New York City. It's a contract with National Grid.
But how many houses?
10,000 houses a year in New York City would be heated from the syngas that would be produced from this site. This is a marvel of engineering and what we've been able to do as a society to be able to take the garbage away or to mitigate its damages. Everybody talks about, we need to recycle more. We do. But we also need to recognize the incredible job that the engineers and the scientists did in planning this as the only place where we could take garbage from the millions of New Yorkers that were disposing of it every day.
You were talking about the geotextile.
Yes.
What can you say more about that?
Imagine thicker than the roof of a convertible car.
Okay.
All right, a little bit firmer with some ridges. And they are stapled and then heat glued together. And again, they probably come like they would a baseball field, large rolls. They put down gullies with stone and tubes in them that are perforated so that gases would come up and get captured in those pipes. Then they would cover it with this geotextile, this membrane, and then it gets sealed all the way around. And then on top of that, more dirt goes in, and then they plant on top of that.
Are these permeable?
No, they are impermeable.
So what about the water?
The water goes down into other pipes, which are at the bottom, that then connect to a leachate processing facility on the past that mound over there on the other side of the site.
Now, are those going to degrade?
No, they're not going to degrade. Over time, the ground will change, where the garbage will have depleted in through the thermal conversion process of compression and heat. It will go back and compact. We'll lose some height. We'll probably lose 2 to 3%, maybe 5% total height. But I don't imagine more than that. I mean, we haven't lost much up here since '96. This was always thought of as a model for how a responsible society would deal with their garbage in a large-scale municipal way. I got a call today, actually, from a group in Korea that is converting a landfill to a park, and they're using our master plan as an example of what inspired them in covering those landfills, on the other side of the planet. And then you also look at other areas like in Indonesia. There's a landfill that's on fire. It's just unfortunate because if you don't do it responsibly, if government doesn't step in and make those investments in the quality of life for your people and the overall environment of the world is severely impacted.
What qualifications does a park administrator have? You like an engineer or an enviroscience guy or like?
Me? I'm a community activist in Staten Island originally. I am a real estate developer, and there's an enormous amount that goes into transferring the title from the Department of Sanitation to the Department of Parks. So my specialty as a developer and understanding the nuances of the different agencies and really working almost an entire career in government, in legislation. It gave me a professional background that was acceptable to the Parks Department when they hired me for this job. And you get a smile, you got to be able to smile while you tell your story. So, one of the great parts about being out here, just as somebody who works out here, is the escape that you get from New York City. You don't even know you're in New York City. This could be the Dakotas. This could be Pennsylvania. You could be out by, Happy Valley in Penn State. It's really turned into a beautiful thing. We do get a raptor nesting report in my office, and I go through what's here. And we had 23 osprey families this year, all of whom survived the year. So we'll see. Hopefully that'll turn into like 5% more next year. Central Park is 800 acres. So this is 3 times the size.
Wow, this is huge. So that speaks to how big Central Park actually is.
It really does. When you look at that, that's the most valuable piece of real estate on planet Earth.
$100 million condo
looking at you. But that's something, we laugh about it. But it's one of the challenges that I have as a not-for-profit leader here in Staten Island, is that Central Park is surrounded by those, as you say, $100 million condos. And it has people who have a vested interest in that park being a success and a safe and clean and programmed park. We don't really have that luxury here.
Right.
We have a park that is really out in the outskirts. It really doesn't qualify for funding because it was never in a historically discriminated against area because there was no one here. And the communities that do live here are very much so working families, working middle-class communities that work in those buildings in service roles to those people in those $100 million condos. So we're not going to be, we went to provide for them this fantastic amenity, but we're also going to struggle when it comes to raising the money that we need to be able to provide some of the same things, some of the equity that Central Park would provide to its patrons, only because its patrons can afford to fund them. The Capital Division of the New York City Parks Department has a group of timelines for different parts of the park that we're developing. So we just completed 24 months ago North Park Phase 1, which we walked through. Then over on the other side, we're going to put shovels in the ground on a 30-acre piece called South Park, which will be an active park, and that has ball fields and public restrooms. It's going to have lighting. It's going to have some trails.
Public facing.
Yeah, it'll be a fantastic amenity for the community. Where that tower is, that's Toad Hill, and that is the highest naturally occurring space on the Eastern Seaboard from New England south. You see where we are, 250 feet up, that's about 400 feet. This is a huge amount of garbage that was placed under these mounds. If you turn around and look that way, you can see West Mound, which just goes on for miles. This is really a gigantic landfill. There's also, if you notice to the right on the downslope, is an American flag. And that's the site where we brought everything back from 9/11 and laid the buildings out, did the investigations, and looked for remains.
How long?
So we closed this landfill on March 22nd, 2001, and opened it September 12th.
Okay.
And it worked up until about 4.5-5 years ago.
Oh, really?
Again, that site itself just closed a year and a half ago from the perspective of the finish cover.
They kept the debris here?
they kept some debris, in the sense that the dusts and gravel and rocks and everything below a 1/4 of an inch sieve is out there. All of the large material, some of it was turned into steel that is now in the New World Trade Center. Some was turned into steel that went into a naval vessel. Some was just sold off. Some are in monuments throughout the 50 states in front of firehouses. The heavy metals went out, but there is still, it is a memorial ground out there. Where the gas tanks are, that is New Jersey, and there's the Arthur Kill, which is a navigable waterway in New York City. The container ships go through there. You can see where that water comes into Freshkills, and then right below it is our compost facility, which is composting all of those scraps that come out of the little brown buckets. So not all of them, but a good portion of them. So that gets processed, and then that's the smell you smell. That's organics decomposing. That is not municipal solid waste. You'd be able to tell the difference. That is almost like a sweeter, more, yes, it's an earthy smell, where the other would be really something that would be pungent and quite offensive. Right next to it, you can see orange rail cars. Those are sealed rail cars, which our garbage goes into and is shipped out of New York City on those rails. It goes out that way to where the Goethals Bridge is, and across, and off it goes. And then again, that building has air handling systems. So every time a garbage truck goes in, the doors close behind it, the air handlers go on, the garbage is taken out of the truck. So it does capture the vast majority of bad odor. So we're not going to be smelling that, all the way up here. And we also have a search and rescue area where they have a bunch of concrete debris, and the NYPD trains their dogs for search and rescue over there as well. So it's really a well-used site, and you work your way around, and there's also a pretty cool garbage truck car wash. If you go in dirty, they come out clean. Right? And then, of course, you can see Manhattan and the Bayonne Bridge, the Goethals Bridge, Newark Airport right up the road. It's a beautiful view today.
How often do you get to come out?
I'm here every day.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
No wonder you're so happy. Life is good.
Life is good. We have a bird backpack program, which we got some federal money for. They take these little tiny radio transmitters, and we glue onto them.
On the bird.
Yeah, and we glue onto them little rubber bands, and we put them on them. We catch the birds, we put them on them, and the birds fly around for a couple weeks with them, and then they fall off. But we're collecting all the data. So somebody today left a box on the front step of my office. I show up, it says injured bird. I was like, oh no. And so I take it inside and I put it on the desk, and I wait about 10 minutes. Jose comes in, and I'm like, you're the bird scientist. We have an injured bird. So we open it up, and the bird flies out around the room, and he's like, it's not an injured bird. So it recovered quickly. So he goes over and, just grabs it literally out of the sky, and he puts this thing in it. And he's like, it's a thrush. And he checks it immediately. He checks the whole thing for ticks. He said, it has no ticks. He's like, I want to make sure, because this is how the ticks move, between sites. Check the box to make sure, because if it was, we would take it immediately, put it into a tube, and send it to CDC.
Test it for Lyme, just test it for
Test it for a variety of things, depending upon the type of tick it is, the species. Take it for babsiosis, test it for rickettsia, test it for Lyme. Is it a dog tick? Is it a deer tick? Right. Is it a, Gulf Coast tick or some kind? So that is something that we focus on when we do our studies. What type of parasite might be on a bird? Where do they come from? Oh, this came from the south. Maybe the migratory pattern of this bird is further south than we had expected, and now it's coming here. So, and you can tell that sometimes by what passenger is on that bird. It's a fig tree. Look at that. Any figs? It's not really the time of year, and I think all the birds would eat the figs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it was wild, but it is a fig.
Could you eat that?
Yeah, you could. Absolutely, I would have no problem at all. The soil here is clean, and that, what's the root? That going down about 1.5 feet, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thing is, could I eat it? No, because it's been eaten already. We raise money from the city and from private individuals, private foundations, to teach the New York City school kids and the kids from private schools and the regional schools as well, what it is to be in nature, what it is to be a former landfill, what it is to understand biodiversity and understand all of the different elements that are out here and that are so important to having knowledge of. So many kids are like, I didn't realize, I just throw the garbage in the street. Well, you don't, because then it gets picked up, it gets thrown here, it gets taken out here, it gets buried. And they're like, I don't want to do that, I want to recycle that can now. And these kids then really get an idea of the result of their actions. And the other part that's very important to me is bringing our Title I school kids who really come more from the Black and brown communities that are historically not exposed to this type of environment. So the North Shore of Staten Island is much more urban than, say, the South Shore. We bring kids from every school in Staten Island, but the North Shore kids come out and it is really a different type of environment for, say, a child who is a city dweller or building dweller versus a kid who has a front and backyard. For every child in New York, every park is their front and backyard. So it is so vital that the leadership who get elected commit to 1% of the city budget to fund our parks.
Has that become an issue at all in the campaign?
Not in this campaign. I haven't seen them really talk about that. Oh, look at that guy. And he's inside his shell.
I take good one.
Do you have anybody else in there? No, I think it's just him. We'll bump into a bunch of them. If you see the tall grasses like these, you could see them sometimes sort of on them. If you walk by and you see big clumps, you'll see bigger snails on those. The cleaner and safer and more programmed the parks are of the city of New York, it's to the betterment of all of the residents of the city of New York. We educate kids, we take stresses off the school system to do that. We have outdoor activities for children, we have outdoor activities for adults, concerts and so forth. All of these things are amenities for not just our park patrons, but for every New Yorker to make it a better quality of life for them. So again, I'm a huge supporter of this, as are many of my other fellow parkies. And we just hope that they one day choose to share our vision of 1%.
Have they gotten it to 1?
No, I think we're about 0.6.
Is this the largest landfill in the country, in the world?
This was at one point the largest landfill in the world. I don't know if at this time there may be a larger one in China, there may be a larger one in India, I don't know. Somebody said, oh, it's visible from space. Well, yeah, if you have Google Maps, everything is visible from space. But yeah, I think it was noted that, look, there is the Freshkills landfill. And one of the first things I did was I called NASA and I said, would you take a look at our park and would you say you've seen Freshkills as a park? And they sent me back certified from the International Space Station, a view of Freshkills Park. So I was like, boom. I think a lot of parks throughout the world, not just the United States, have converted their landfills to parks. In Israel, there's Ariel Sharon Park, which was filled with garbage at one time and then covered in a methodical and responsible way. I think over the course of our history, it was always going to be, once it's closed, it has to be something usable. Ooh.
What's that structure there?
Oh, that is a bird tower.
An observation tower.
An observation tower, yes. That is actually one of the best birdwatching sites according to Hawkwatch website. It's like got designated. It's a great spot to go. And we also have an ADA compliant one off to the right. Yeah, these are stormwater runoff. Everything is designed to prevent erosion. And the water would essentially rain in here and then it would go down and hit a variety of these gullies. It prevents it from pulling the earth away, which could be incredibly dangerous on a site like this. So everything is on a certain angle with certain capture areas, with drains. Everything is very, very well engineered out there. We do have a bike race called the Great Gobbler, where a couple hundred racers will come here. We have a big meadow down there, and they will race in and around eastbound and southbound and come back. And they do it for, I think it's a 14 or 16 mile track. These guys are flying through there. I want to say thank you all. But I also just want to say the Freshkills Park Alliance, our 501c3, the not-for-profit that runs all of our public programs, is planting 50,000 violets here. And we're going to reintroduce butterflies back to Freshkills. We have all these kids from our Pathways to Graduation GED program planting them. We cleared a big piece of land. If you guys ever want to come and be a participant in that and you want to help us adopt a violet or adopt a butterfly next year, you can see our QR code down on our big poster at the bottom. But again, keep watching out for our violets and keep watching out for our parks. And thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming and letting me have an open house with you. It's fantastic.